Welcome to the Back Page, Episode 1. This is August 23rd. I'm your host, Carter Sims.
I'm Collin Crisp.
Today we're going to be talking about the latest football game against Buckeye Valley, as well as some recent Pacer sporting event updates and some NFL trade talk. Collin will start off last Friday, football with a huge victory, 59-28 over BV. What were some highlights from the game?
Well, when you're talking highlights, if you have a 100-yard kickoff return, you can't really, especially to start the game, you can't really exclude that. It was for us on the sideline, trying to get through the band and looking out at the crowd, it was really crazy. I mean, the whole stadium was so hyped. You already feel the energy in the air before it even happened. And then once it happened itself, I don't think it ever died. Even when the game finally got away from BV towards the end of the first half, I don't think the energy was dead then either. It just stayed. And, the rest of the first quarter wasn't as explosive, but definitely the second quarter was the highlight of the game. There were so many huge hits and turnovers and just explosive plays that just touchdown for touchdown. And it was really wild. I hadn't seen much like that in high school.
Yeah, like Collin said, obviously a huge return from Austin Coslow to start off the game. I hadn't even taken my spot on the sideline yet
Either.
Get ready to record. So I'm glad I hurried over there and did. But obviously explosive second quarter as well. 35 points, and first half was kind of highlighted obviously by Austin and Josh Russell's 3 touchdowns before the halftime. Other highlights of the game were Justin Matthews' pick 6 return, and Cooper Goebel had a reception as well, and obviously a lot of pressure forced by Connor Dutton as well in the backfield. So forced fumble after, what was that, third quarter?
Yeah,
third quarter.
His fingerprints were all over that game. He didn't have a ton of he didn't put points on the board every play. But if you go back and just look at every play in the film of it, every play defensively, he was somewhere making an impact.
Yep. And then just top it all off, obviously Cooper Goebel perfect on all 8 of his kicks, 7 extra points, and 1 field goal. So that's about as good as you can get scoring-wise when you get touchdown from every facet of the game, with special teams, defense, and offense. So when you can get all 3 phases scoring, that's always a good thing. In other Pacer sports action, girls soccer picked up a 4-0 victory over Hilliard Bradley last night, and obviously boys soccer with a 3-1 victory over Buckeye Valley over the weekend. Collin, you guys have boys golf update?
Yes. During the last 2 OCC events, the boys team went 5-1 and 4-2. And Mr. Graham, who I spoke to before the pod, talked about, he's the coach if you didn't know, and he talked about how a lot of the other golf coaches were talking to him about how his team presented more fight than usual. And I think it's really cool because how youthful the team is. They only have 1 senior on there, Nate Richardson, and he's been doing his usual thing. He's really, really good. He's had the second best average on the team behind Parker Stefani. But both of them have been leading a really fight-filled team, and they've been one of the best teams in the OCC so far this year, and it's been really cool to see.
Yep, and then looking forward, obviously we'll update on every fall sport right now in the current season, but girls volleyball opener tonight, so next time we hopefully talking about a win in the opener. And then obviously coming up this Friday, boys football hosts Marion Franklin at home. Hopefully another sold-out crowd like Buckeye Valley week. I know it's always kind of hard to transition the energy over from week to week, especially after starting with the rivalry, but hopefully the environment continues, because I think that was probably your first experience down there on the track. How would you describe kind of the first experience you've had there?
So that was my first BV game too. So I haven't got to see anything like that. I've went to a whole lot of high school football games, but none up here that were like that. That was, the atmosphere there was crazy. What was really wild about it for me was I expected it to be really hype at first, because the opening kickoff at any football game, everyone's energetic the entire time. But even as the game either got out of hand, or there was the first quarter, which after the opening kickoff was kind of stale, it never lost energy. It could be a 0-yard rush and it would still feel just as energetic as it was originally. The whole place was just bumping. And it was so cool. I've never seen an environment like that in high school.
Okay, now to get into NFL trade talks. Recently, Jonathon Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts has been in a contract dispute and doing kind of a hold in. It's kind of the new age holdout in the NFL to show up to practice but not participate. Um, conflicting reports on his injury status, whether he's healthy or not, and then obviously see videos of him kind of lumbering around practice. So a lot of dispute between him and the front office and owner Jim Irsay of the Indianapolis Colts. But recently, they have given Jonathon Taylor permission to seek out a trade. So today we're going to go through a tier ranking list of all the NFL teams and where hopefully find the best destination for Jonathon Taylor. So it's a little bit of NFL speed dating here. We'll get straight to the Arizona Cardinals. Colin, where would you rank the Arizona Cardinals tier-wise for a destination for Jonathon Taylor?
Well, I mean, firstly, I just don't imagine he'd want to go there. Like, they're not exactly a big free agent hotspot gathering place. And then on top of that, while they have money to spend, they're also just not very good. And I imagine he's wanting to upgrade from the Colts because, I mean, that's part of usually what happens when you're becoming an aging player, especially at running back. So, I mean, when it comes to him wanting to go there, I don't think that that's part of the equation.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are probably rebuilding because, I mean, I don't want to say they're indisputably the worst team in their division, but they're pretty close. It doesn't really match up.
Yeah, I would have them. I'm a little more positive on the outlook for them because at least for the Jonathon Taylor front, because I think they're a really bad team, kind of lacking direction at the moment. Obviously, Kyler Murray's injury status is going to be a huge factor at the beginning of the season. So I think to kind of jumpstart the rebuild, exploring a trade would be nice, but I just don't see it matching up for both sides. So I'd probably have them C tier.
Yeah, I was going to say C or D, so we'll go C.
Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons. I'll let the resident Atlanta Falcons fan start off this one.
Don't do it. We have too much young talent in our running back room for us to go after a guy who's essentially older than anybody in the room. I mean, we just drafted one in the first round, which is controversial enough. Tyler Allgeier was incredible last year, especially considering that, he just kind of came out of left field. No one's going into the season thinking, oh, Tyler's the next big running back. But, he, led us to being a top 5 rushing offense last year. We don't need him. We have a plethora of talent back there already.
We have them probably D tier.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens. I'll start off this one. I actually really like the idea of them going to the Baltimore Ravens if I'm a Ravens fan because it'd be a nice 1-for-1 upgrade if you were able to swap J.K. Dobbins for Jonathon Taylor. It's kind of interesting considering both of them are a little shaky injury status right now, and it's unclear where the line is between injury and contract dispute for both of them, but I realistically just don't see it happening. I can't see the Colts trading him to a team that's trying to contend in their own conference right now. So I'd probably have that B tier, but that's more off of just the fit, not as much the actual logistics of it.
If that were to happen, Dobbins for Taylor, what do you think would go with Dobbins to get Taylor to the Ravens?
Have to be. I don't think it'd just be the NBA package of just trade 5-round picks and anything flies. But I definitely think there'd have to be significant draft compensation. Obviously, Taylor had a down year last year, and injuries played a big part in that. But he's still a very young player who's showed a lot of promise, especially in his first year. So, I mean, as someone who was in MVP conversations just at the start of last year, I don't think you can just do a 1-for-1 swap. So,
yeah.
Like I said, as nice as that would seem, logistically, I just don't see it happening.
Maybe a second and a fifth.
Yeah, something like that. It would have to be a decent package to even be considered, considering they're already in the AFC. Next up is another AFC team with the Buffalo Bills. What would we?
I don't think so. I want to say yes, it's because that'd be so fun. Josh Allen and Jonathon Taylor, and they got Stephon Diggs and all that. It'd be such a fun team to watch. But I don't think that they have a reason to mess with what they have.
Yeah, I think the Bills their only thought right now is just to make sure that Stephon Diggs is happy in Buffalo. It's really the only crack in their windshield at the moment. So I feel just bringing in I don't know if I want to say star at this point, but
I think he's a star.
A top talent in the NFL would just shake things up, especially considering the trade package you have to send back. So I'd probably have them C tier at the highest.
Yeah, I agree.
Carolina Panthers. This would be really fun, but I just don't know what they have to offer other than straight up draft picks to the Indianapolis Colts.
I think they're saving their picks. Like, they need them right now. They're not exactly like the most talent-filled team. And they also have Miles Sanders on their team. And I don't think that – I'm not saying that Miles Sanders is better, but I don't think that he is significantly worse than Jonathon Taylor. Miles Sanders is a great back. It's like, with the one position they already have some talent in, you wouldn't want to mess it up by bringing in another one and getting rid of all your future for it. So I'd say D for that.
Yeah. All right, next up, I want you to pull up the running back depth for the Chicago Bears because I actually think this would be a really fun trade. And part of that is just me being selfish and imagining a team with Justin Fields and Jonathon Taylor together, just rushing-wise, that would be so fun to watch as a neutral fan at least, maybe not as a Bears fan, I don't know. Obviously, we have to get better protection for either one of them to get any yardage, but I think this would be like a B-tier trade just based off of the kind of the hole that they have at running back and the accelerated rebuild they're trying to have right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have this at least B-tier.
Well, I think that they have two capable running backs, but not like a great running back. Because Donta Foreman, I'm a little biased for him, but he's good. He's a good pass catching back, and then Khalil Herbert is too. But they have kind of two of the same guy back there. If you're going to have two, I'm going to say B- tier running backs, then they can't be the same one, and they have the same style. So sending one back, and then getting Jonathon Taylor, and obviously sending some picks with it, and they're already leaning so heavily on the run. They could have Jonathon Taylor for their run the ball, power back kind of guy, and then they have whoever they don't get rid of to be their pass catcher out of the backfield for when Justin Fields isn't scrambling. That is such a good rushing attack. And then even when they aren't rushing, they have a pass catching running back still. I think that works super well. If they wanted to have some wins this year and not just completely tank another year, then that's how you do it. I'd say B, maybe even A.
Yeah, I'd say B for now, but we might have to come back to that and talk ourselves into an A tier ranking. Just as a neutral, obviously, I'm a Bengals fan first and foremost, but I would love to see a attack with Justin Fields and Jonathon Taylor together, at least a healthy Jonathon Taylor. We don't know what that looks like right now in 2023, but in imaginary, it'd be a B tier. Mm-hmm. All right, next we got the Cincinnati Bengals, and I might be biased as a Bengals fan, but I just don't see this happening either. Especially considering that we had to get, let Samaje Perine go.
Yeah.
Bring back Joe Mixon. Probably not going to see another large contract from Joe Mixon. I can't see us trying to bring in a more expensive running back, especially considering that we have to pay the whole receiving core. And Joe Burrow could be, for all we know, a week away from getting the most lucrative deal for a quarterback in NFL history. So, logistically, I just don't see this happening, and I don't know if the Bengals are really in a spot where we want to shake up the roster at this point in the season at all. So, I would say just logistically D tier, whether that's, how it would happen or whether both sides would agree or not, I just don't see.
I'd put it above D. I get it not being the top one, but the Bengals' biggest weakness last year was their running attack, and they needed more of that. And they're not a really physical offensive team currently, and between that and they have to pay a lot of people. They have cap space now, and if they want to make it a temporary thing with Jonathon Taylor, then that would work. I don't think that it's a long-term solution, but if they were short-term patching the run game, I could see it working.
If you're going to take a flyer, I guess that's a different conversation, but I just don't see, similar to the Bills, I just don't see them shaking up this roster right now.
That's fair. C? We'll go C with it?
We can go C for now.
Okay. Yeah.
Cleveland Browns.
Nick Chubb.
Thank you.
C.
Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think Dallas should mess with their backfield.
They have Tony Pollard. They don't need to touch it.
And I'm really excited for Deuce Vaughn. He was one of my favorite running backs watching all of college football last year. So, yeah. probably D tier.
I mean, Tony Pollard's great now. I also think Deuce Vaughn's going to be a monster down the line. He's like, just looking at him in college was like so beautiful. It was like poetic running. It's like, yeah, I don't touch
Another
it.
one, similar to the Bills and Bengals. Not that the Cowboys are really in the same like stratosphere as the Bills or the Bengals, but I just don't see it happening considering the situation they already have. Next up is the Denver Broncos.
This is a really interesting one because, like, how much faith do they have in themselves, like where they are now? Because if they think that the problem last year was genuinely just the head coach, and now they have Sean Payton and everything's going to fix itself, then don't touch it. But, like, if that's not the problem, then, like, touch it, go for it. I think it'd work. But I think that, I think they might have faith in themselves now.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think they're in a position to bring in a guy like Jonathon Taylor. We always see the first year for an NFL coach is where it's usually pretty rough, and that second year jump is typically the most dramatic one when you bring in a new head coach in the NFL. I just don't. It'd be fun to watch. I just don't see it happening. So I'd probably say C tier just based off of the stage that they're at in their rebuild right now.
I do think that Sean Payton, though, like, with the head coach thing, that's usually the case. But, I mean, as a traumatized Falcons fan from Sean Payton, I could totally see him going in there and just, popping off. But either way, though, if he goes in there and pops off, then that makes even less of a reason to go get him. So, yeah.
Next up, we have the Detroit Lions.
Don't do it. They got so much young running back talent.
Yeah.
Like, they had last year, that was what made them so good. Don't touch it.
I think, especially in the NFL, there's kind of an idea of maybe if you have guys that are kind of on the same level, and neither one of their running backs right now is on the same level as Jonathon Taylor, at least from what we saw in his first year. But if you have a guy who's similar and comparable to another position, there's typically the thought that, well, he's one of your own, so you want to keep your guy in the NFL. And I think the Lions are set right now. I think the running back's really not a spot that they're concerned, so probably just D tier, just based off of, no interest from probably either side. I don't think he's urgent to go to Detroit right now. So
totally, I agree.
Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers.
They still have Aaron Jones, right? Did he move in the offseason? He's still a Packer, right?
I believe he's still a Packer. I'm going to check that to make sure.
Yeah.
This isn't really embarrassing when this podcast comes out.
100%. Because, they moved just about everybody out of Green Bay this year. It was just straight up everything, box to the left, but he's still around.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, don't touch it then. That's the best player on their team, besides maybe the corner.
You're not in love with Jordan Love yet?
No, I'm not in love with Jordan Love.
See, the thought I had was, to bring in Jonathon Taylor and Jordan Love as, a running mate would be an interesting idea, but I think there's so much more investment that they have to do, defensively, and eventually they're going to have to upgrade that receiving corps soon. So, I just don't see it happening in Green Bay.
D tier.
D tier. Houston Texans.
Too heavy rebuilding to do it. It's also in their own division. D.
These next few teams are going to be a little interesting. All right, this one, next team alphabetically is the Indianapolis Colts. So obviously they can't trade him to their own team. But what do you think the probability is that they resolve this issue and Jonathon Taylor stays in Indianapolis Colts?
This is something that I don't think enough people are talking about. I think this could totally happen. We've seen this happen a few times where, contract disputes, people are getting moved, everybody gets hyped up, and then it just don't happen. Oh, we figured it out, we're good. It happened with Lamar. I think that if Jonathon Taylor stays in town, I really want to see how the Anthony Richardson experiment goes. And having him in town, Jonathon Taylor there, that's going to be a fun backfield. I kind of hope he stays. Part of me does. I think that'd be really fun to watch, see how it goes. I want us to give it a B.
Yeah, history would kind of lead you to think that'd be the case. I just, from some of the reports that we heard out of Indianapolis this summer, it was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
During the obviously disagreement they had over his extension. So whenever you hear that a guy's rude to staff members and people that don't even play for the team, that's kind of an issue, especially for a rebuilding team with a new head coach, a new quarterback, trying to put in a new culture, get moving in the right direction after they were a pretty painful team to watch last year. So I just don't know if this is a repairable situation in a relationship for the Colts, especially considering that Jim Irsay came out and said that, whether he leaves the league or Jonathan Taylor leaves the league, the league's still going to go on. So I don't think that the level of interest to put up with this much longer from either side is just there.
Yeah.
To have this go on.
Well, then I also think that there's the chance that like the media close to it's like exaggerated a bit. I don't know how much uptick there is, but I imagine they're not underplaying it.
Yeah.
But, if it's as dramatic as they've made it sound over the last few months, I don't think that he'll stick around. But I also think that, like, there's the inflation factor.
I just hope this isn't a situation like Le'Veon Bell back in the day with the Pittsburgh Steelers where it's like it comes to someone sitting out a year because that just historically has never turned out good for both parties. So
the player's never the same after that year, ever.
Realistically, for Jonathan Taylor to be a Colt, I'd have that situation be like C tier probability.
Yeah, that's fair.
Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars. There's no way that the Colts trade him interdivision. I don't think that's like
D tier
a possibility at all. This next one would be just despicable. Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, it could happen. I don't want to say it will. I don't think they're going to touch it. And then also, if like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's good.
Yeah, I think if you're Kansas City, like you're really happy with having Clyde Edwards-Helaire, considering he's probably like the 5th best player in your offense right now. I don't think he touched what you're currently running with as the Kansas City Chiefs.
And, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly confident that he'd be cheaper than Taylor.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then, like, they should be saving money for a receiver, considering that's been, like, sledding recently.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think even beyond that, like, besides the financials, I think you're confident in Clyde Edwards-Helaire abilities. Like, just baseline if you're the Chiefs, regardless of the price tag right now. So I just don't think you mess with that. Las Vegas Raiders.
No, Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, that's like one of the only watchable players on that team right now.
Yeah, totally.
Devontae Adams. So I don't see them shaking that up.
You think Jimmy G will work out? I think that'll work out.
We'll see. I think he's a better quarterback than he gets credit for, but I don't know if it's the right fit in Vegas right now, considering that the team they had last year wasn't really. I didn't look at that team and said, you know what, they need Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
yeah, totally.
I think they have other problems to worry about right now.
Fair.
Next up, Los Angeles Chargers. I'd say D tier. I don't think you mess with Austin Eckler. I think he's one of the most dependable running backs in the league right now. Really no reason to mess with one of your best positions.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'd put it C at least because like if Austin Eckler's a passing back, right? Jonathan Taylor's not.
Yeah.
And like if you wanted that like dynamic duo, then that would be really cool. And they could really use it because when it comes to their rushing game alone, they don't have it. Teams that had winning records last year, they had the worst like yards per attempt. So like that'd be something that'd be really useful for them. But when it comes, I'm not sure they'll touch it this late in the offseason. If this happened earlier in the offseason, I could see it happening. But now I want to give it like a C.
Next up, we have their neighbors, Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams right now are really just a time bomb waiting for at least like 5 losses before the bye before they blow up this current roster and send it, to various spots in the AFC. So I don't see them bringing in any talent right now and trying to win now. Unless they get really desperate with like, a quick injury to their starter or something like that. But I don't think they're a team right now that's, really eager to jump out and build.
Do you not think they could match the success they had the year before last?
I feel like we talked about it even at the time when they basically constructed that roster in a matter of 9 months. Like, this is a very win-now team, and then you're willing to pay for it in the years after.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see that happening in terms of the direction they're going in.
Yeah, I see it. I think D tier most likely with that one.
This next team, Miami Dolphins, I'm high on this, but I want you to give me your take first.
I think they're too talented in the position room already. Like, my family members are a bunch of Miami fans, okay? And that's like the position room that they like hype up the most all the time. You see our running backs. And I always think, they're going to talk about Tyreek Hill, but they never do. They always go to the running backs. We have the most underrated running back room in the nation. And, like, I don't think the fan base would be happy about it because I think that they're already happy with what they have. And that being said, as an outsider looking in, I think it'd be cool.
Right.
But like, I don't think that that's what like the locals want.
I think it'd be interesting to see. I think they're a team that could kind of creep into the conversation if this trade is something that kind of goes on and extends into the season. But right now, I have them B tier. But depending on how the year starts, I could see them jumping up to A tier just based off of obviously we're not wishing injury on anybody, but that's always a possibility. But they're a team that was kind of in talks of trying to sign the other running backs. I mean, even when Saquon Barkley was having issues with his contract, like I heard their name floated. Even Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, when they hit the market, I think you kind of wait and let this running back market reset itself as long as you can. But I could definitely see the Miami Dolphins running up into that conversation.
I think if they send like Devon off and then they keep Raheem, because he is like a very purely speed back. Jonathon Taylor is not. He can like power through you. That'd be a really cool duo to have.
Yeah.
It'd be like if Zeke was better and Dallas-esque thing.
Next up, I really like the idea of this, but we have the Minnesota Vikings. This is one of the teams I'm most interested to watch this NFL season just because I feel like so much of their success last year was, some people called it an anomaly, and this is really just going to be kind of a make or break year in Minnesota for so many people, I think Kirk Cousins included. Especially them losing Dalvin Cook, I could see them trying to make a win now move and picking up Jonathon Taylor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's odd how much little faith people have in Minnesota because last year everyone looks at like their point differential and then saw they got blew out by the Dallas Cowboys and was like, oh, it's over. But like they can win. I mean, they did last year, and I think Kirk Cousins is like criminally overhated. He's not that bad. And then they obviously have the receivers to do it. They got the best one in the league in Justin Jefferson. They're like a running back away, and they just shipped him away so they could get a new guy. Alexander Madison's really good too, but he's super unexperienced. I think that it would work really well.
Yeah, I think this is A tier right now.
Yes.
And I'm kind of seeing like an offense with Kirk Cousins, who's right now going to be like the darling of the NFL fan base just after the Netflix quarterback doc that came out. Where, I think we all kind of gained a little more respect for Kirk Cousins than we had going into it. Obviously, JJ's a stud, favorite for MVP early in the year. Mm-hmm. And then you add Jonathon Taylor to this after losing Dalvin Cook. I think this would be one of the most fun offenses in the whole NFL to watch. Next up, we have the New England Patriots. I just don't see this happening after signing Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, they have Ezekiel Elliott, and Stevenson's already a good pass-catching back. They already have the duo they need. It's really one of the only positions they have on their team that's, like, particularly good. Like, I don't think that it's anything to touch there.
Yeah. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, they have – I'm assuming they have Kamara still, right? Or did he go away? Yeah. Back. Well, then, we're not touching that.
Yeah, and even it's the chart as well. Like Jamal Williams, one of my favorite players, just off of like his personality and his football interest. So I think you're happy with your backfield right now if you're New Orleans.
Totally.
We'll have to see how the quarterback situation works out. Obviously, Derek Carr's kind of known for being a pretty average quarterback, except for the year that he was, like a late MVP surge for some reason. But I think for New Orleans, you're really just hoping to get some direction early in the season so you know what to do. Because I don't think you want to be another team that's kind of sitting around at like an 8 and 9 season again if you're New Orleans. Like you need to pick a direction fast.
And this is the year for them. I mean, the NFC South is so weak. There's not like a team that you're looking at before the season like, oh, they're the team. Like the Falcons are pretty mid. Panthers are bad. The Buccaneers are probably going to be really bad. Like the Saints should take that division.
Yeah.
So this is the year to surge. And they don't need to mess with anything beforehand if they already have the backfield they want.
Next up, we have, I'm just going to be quick with this, both New York teams, I don't see this happening for the Giants or Jets.
Yeah, they both have great running backs already.
Yep. So, I mean,
D-tier.
Both teams in New York, D-tier. Did we give a tier ranking for New Orleans?
D-tier, yeah, I think.
Next up, Philadelphia Eagles. I think you just keep it moving. There's no need.
I mean, they did give away one of their best running backs over the offseason, but, I mean, I think they'll be okay.
I just don't see them being a team that makes a splash and move early in the season. Because I think Philadelphia, if you're Philadelphia, you really have the idea that you're the best roster in the NFL, and there's no need to make a move like this, especially like with the not disgruntled, but a star who's currently asking out of somewhere and not already free agent.
Yeah, I think if it gets like later into the season and he's still like not taken yet, it's possible, but not yet. It's like maybe C tier.
Probably.
Mm.
This would be a nightmare for me, just as a Bengals fan, but the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Najee Harris is really that great of an NFL running back.
They haven't given him time though.
So
yeah,
I just don't. I'm not super confident in their backfield already, but I just don't see them making a big splash move right now.
no, they don't have the team to.
Next up, we'll go speed round with this just because I feel like these are kind of teams that already have a pretty distinct situation. San Francisco 49ers.
CMC, keep it. Yeah.
Yeah. Seattle Seahawks, this is one of the teams I'm going to really be excited watching just based off of vibes.
Kenneth Walker, though, keep it.
Exactly. So probably D tier for both of them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Too bad.
Yeah, you're just not ready to compete. Tennessee Titans.
Derrick
no way
Henry,
they're
keep
bringing
it.
Washington Commanders.
I don't think so.
I could see this happening just based off of like Indianapolis doesn't want to trade them to an AFC team.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to be a team that's ready to compete right now, but I just don't think that Washington has a desirable enough package to send back to Indianapolis. So I'd say C tier just right now. But if this trade saga gets more desperate, I could see them kind of creeping up to a B tier.
So the only especially great thing they could send back is better, and that's McLaurin. Taylor would probably go with a pick for McLaurin. So that's not what the Colts are looking for. And then there's not really another player on that team. It's like, oh, that's for Taylor worthy.
And,
so it ain't gonna happen.
And looking at our list, we don't have any S tier right now, but I don't think at this point in the season there's an S tier trade destination for anyone.
For running backs, especially not.
Yeah.
Running backs is not really, we know how much their value's tanking. It's been a big topic of the offseason. I don't think that there's any we just desperately need an S tier. I don't think that's.
Yeah, and maybe we come back in our big NFL season preview episode or something and have an S tier team, probably the Vikings if it's anyone. But
yeah,
I think for right now, Vikings is probably my best fit. This wraps up episode 1 of the Backpage. You can listen to this and our other podcast, Talisman Talks, on Spotify and YouTube under Hayes Talisman.